I'm so excited to introduce one of our newest area managers, Haley Nelson. Congratulations. It's been a little bit, but promoted last fall. So Haley, okay, she's pretty cool. She has a PhD in psychological brain sciences, a professor in psychology, and of course is a beautiful mom and wife. So we're so excited to hear from you. And I love listening to Haley present and train. And she's done a wonderful job with our nutrition events. So we're so excited to have you and take it away.
Thank you so much, Nicole. And thank you, Elise, for thinking of me and inviting me to do this. I was very humbled and honored that you thought of me to do this. And I'm excited to tell my story. So as Nicole said, I have my PhD in psych and brain sciences. I'm a full-time, just recently tenured professor living just outside of the Philadelphia area. And I have two little boys that are very active, and they're 7 and 3. But in addition, I'm a new area manager with Arbonne. And Elise asked me to think about my journey and talk about how I made it to area manager and to give some, suggestions or whatever. Looking back over my Arbonne journey over the past 5 years, I had a lot of success right away and quickly became district manager within 3 months and then got to AM call within the first 5 months. And then, as we were talking about, my team motivation started dwindling. And I realized at that point that I couldn't depend on anyone else but myself. And I became comfortable as district manager, as the ladies were talking about earlier today. And I would just tell myself, yeah, AM would be great and it'll happen if it happens, right? Well, cut to 4 years later into my business. And not only did I not become area manager, but I actually lost my DM title and was back to independent consultant. And that was a huge blow and disappointment. I couldn't believe that I failed. I let myself feel bad for a hot minute. And by minute, I mean a few months. And then before I knew it, it was 2020. But I still had beautiful visions for what 2020 was going to bring. Personally, everything in my life was coming together. We just moved into a new home with an amazing school district for my kids. We were meeting new neighbors and friends. My commute time to work was now cut in half. I was working from home 1 day a week and saving money on childcare expenses. Everything was coming together. And it was at that point that I decided that I was going to reclaim my district. And I knew I could do it too, right? I had done it before. Heck, I was DM for years. So I knew what it took. And because I decided and believed I could do it, I did it. So that was done, right? And then, dun, 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 COVID happened and everyone's world turned upside down. But I still had a beautiful vision for what 2020 had in store for me. And I wasn't going to let COVID get in the way of that. All the steps were in place. Everything I needed was right there in front of me. I just needed to climb one step at a time. And at this point, I didn't even know that I had a goal for area manager qual. I just knew I wasn't going to lose my vision for 2020. I knew I was bound for greatness in my life, which of course includes my Arbonne business. I then earned tenure at my college, which afforded me the time and flexibility to be able to figure out what was next for 2020 and then just go for it. And it was this shift in my mindset and intention that helped me start to attract people to Arbonne who wanted the business and to have big visions for themselves as well. Next thing I know, I have 4 new consultants on my team, all eager to learn and grow a business and have success with Arbonne. In fact, I even had one consultant sign up and make DM qual within just 3 days of close in July. And that's actually what put me into AM qual. So I didn't even know I was going to hit AM qual until 3 days before the end of July. And it was at that moment that I decided it was finally time to earn my goal of becoming area manager, which, by the way, was my original goal when I first started my Arbonne business 5 years ago. I had just forgotten that over time. I still remember that feeling of hitting 10K in July. In fact, I remember that feeling was actually stronger and more memorable feeling than when I actually completed my area. And I think it was because I knew at that moment that nothing was going to stop me. That just like I did to complete grad school, when everything inside me was telling me to stop and to give up, instead I persevered and figured out how to solve a problem and how to be the best at what I was doing, to go above and beyond, to be great at something. I knew that although I had never achieved area manager before, I had achieved greatness and success in my life. And I was determined to now claim my goal and make the decision to complete area at some point before my birthday. So I made the decision. And once I made that decision, I was no longer focusing on my previous failures or not messing up. Instead of focusing on how not to lose, I focused on what it takes to win. I knew that in order to have growth, I needed to do more than just the bare minimum. So I started showing up to meetings, even if none of my consultants were there. I became coachable and became the leader to my team that I knew I could be. I started listening to my upline. And I also listened to the needs and wants of my consultants. I did what I have always known I was supposed to do, but this time I just didn't hesitate. I just did it. I started reaching out to people. I asked people, right? All these things that we know we're supposed to do that I just wasn't doing before. And I also embraced technology and did lots of Facebook parties for my clients, as well as to launch my new consultants. And I utilized time leveraging, locked arms with some of my leaders who were concurrently hosting Facebook parties. And I just invited and popped some of my people into those parties as well. I coached one of my new consultants on how to earn her district, and she did. And most importantly, I believed I could do it. And so I did. Now, I want to go on this belief idea and just let you know, I live in the same town as Christina and Mark Hayford. You probably know them from Arbonne. And I recently read Mark's new book, Light Up the Darkness. And I want to talk about the chapter where he talks about the first key attribute of mindset. Now, I have to preface this by stating that as a neuroscientist, one of my biggest pet peeves in the world is when non-scientists start talking about the brain. And here he goes, right off the bat, talking about how your brain makes decisions. And he starts throwing out terms like conscious and subconscious minds, right? Now, typically, I would have completely skipped this section because it's literally like nails on a chalkboard to me and gives me goosebumps and makes me want to crawl out of my skin. But because he's a neighbor, I decided to give him a chance and continue reading. Later, I did some research and discovered that there is actually empirical data to support these claims that are made by many people. We just use different terminology in the scientific world. So that being said, I'm going to summarize what Mark said in his book. He explained how your conscious mind makes the decisions and your subconscious mind obeys orders. He used the analogy of thinking of it like a captain and the crew on a ship. The crew does what the captain tells them. So if the captain gives bad orders, the ship is going to crash or go off course. But when the captain gives correct orders, then it's smooth sailing. And of course, in my mind, as he's giving this analogy, I'm picturing Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet in Titanic and what happens when the crew follows bad orders from the captain, right? They hit an iceberg and down goes Leo under the water as Kate pries his frozen hand from hers. And she says, "I'll never let you go," right? But what if the captain gave good orders and told the crew to slow down so that they could better see icebergs or other dangers ahead? Where would Leo and Kate be now? Right? So just like the crew on the ship, remember that your subconscious mind will take the orders that it's fed and believe it is fact and work hard to believe and work hard to have those orders realized. So if you don't believe you have enough time, you know enough people or have enough money or have the energy or don't deserve your promotion, then your subconscious mind is going to work really hard to make sure that you don't get there. But when you actually decide to go for the promotion and believe in yourself, then your subconscious mind is going to work very hard to get you to where you need to go. Now, for most people, your subconscious probably has a lot of examples of all negative things that you associate with success, like people who are successful are overworked and unhappy. So a suggestion I would give to people who have a goal in mind is first to counteract those negative thoughts by finding positive examples of people who found joy and success. And these can be anyone, figures in history, someone you know personally, people you don't even know, right? The more positive stories you tell your subconscious mind about success, the more you're going to start believing that a positive outcome is possible. And over time will create and reinforce a positive association with success. For me, I started thinking about all of my own personal successes, things that I've overcome and done in my life. Because just like when I knew I could earn my PhD or just reclaim my district at the beginning of last year, I knew I could achieve anything I put my mind to. I own my mind, so I was in charge of it and therefore was in charge of my crew who steered me in the right direction and guided me on my path with smooth sailing. So I could earn my area manager title on the last day of September, which just so happens to be the night before my birthday. So I'd like to end this little training session with a quote from the late and great Kobe Bryant. He said, "Losers visualize the penalties of failure. Winners visualize the rewards of success." So I ask you what your vision is for 2021, and then think about how great it's going to feel when you actually achieve it. Thank you.
Wow. I love that. Like, that was so good, Haley. Thank you so much. I mean, I have tons of notes and you're so right. And I love that you have the authority you know, and the education and the background to be able to nail that training. How lucky are we to have you? So
Thank you.
thank you so much for that. And you're absolutely, I mean, this business is all here. Like, and we started the call that way. It's all right here. And so we make the choice, right? And I think that's the beauty of it and the reward of it, because don't you feel good? Don't you then want more of that, right? And I realize that when I'm most excited about this business and stuff is when other people are promoting that. I started thinking very clearly in the last, week, like what makes me happy in my Arbonne business, and what makes me happy is seeing the success of the people. It's not the check, the money's nice, but that's not what makes me happy. It is seeing that that domino effect, right? And to know that people can make that happen. So I think, and going back and thinking about all of our personal successes, I think is really important, because we all know that we have been successful in other aspects of our lives or what have you, and why couldn't we do the same here? And now I'm going to have to check out Mark Hayford's book. Right? So, and I think many
It's
of us
a nice short read.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that you said what you said too, because I do think that scientists in particular, or, when you know something and then you get sort of some of that foo-foo, right? That there is actually something to it. And, one of the big things in The Super Attractor, which I think a lot of you have read, is all about that. And in her little thing right now, she's talking about putting yourself into that feeling and how good you feel when you're there. And if you're thinking about all of the wonderful things you've done, how that makes you feel inside and how then you show up to the world, right? And so I don't pretend to know much about neuroscience or neuroplasticity or some of these things that they talk about, but I do know that our mind and our brain is, we use very little of it, is what they say, right? And it can power.
Well, we use all of it, but we use a little bit at any. I'll talk. I'll give you a whole lecture another day.
Go ahead. No, I want to hear it.
Right. No, I mean, we use our whole brain. It's just at any given time we're only using a fraction of it. So
fraction of it. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Peace. Good. No, we need to know that, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, I think that is, it is tremendously important that our attitude, our beliefs, and that is the very foundation. And I know some people are, and I've been watching the Heilig, Bob Heilig stuff, and I know he's got 4 free trainings now. And I watched the first one, and it's all about belief, right? And so I think there's a second one today, and then and they're all recorded and stuff. So we can put that up if people are interested in watching that. But I think he's quite good, and no one has to buy additional trainings or anything like that when we watch some of these things, right? Anyway, thank you again so much, and thank you to Maria, to Nicole, to Haley. Did you guys love these guys or what?